Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this morning's committee hearing. I'm joined by Mr. Marquis Harris Dawson, so we do have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, why don't you walk through what we have on the agenda, and let's get started.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We have 11 items on the agenda. Would you like me to go ahead and read all 11 items, or just items 1 through 10?
Well, let's go 1 through. In fact, you know what? We have public. Why don't you just glaze through 1 through 10? Then I'm going to start public comment. So.
Okay. Item number 1 is Resolution Bon and Rue and Chief Legislative Analyst CLA report relative to city's position on action that would prioritize various policies on autonomous vehicles. Item number 2 is Resolution Englander Buscaino and CLA report relative to the city's position on action by the South Coast Air Quality Management District to utilize settlement proceeds for community benefits. Item number 3 is Resolution O'Farrell-Rue and CLA report relative to the city's position on action that would secure $20 million in funding for completion of the third and final phase of Glendale's Riverwalk project. Item number 4 is a CLA report and resolution Blumenfeld-Harris-Dawson relative to the city's position on placement of a $4 billion general obligation bond on the June 2018 ballot for parks, water, infrastructure, and the environment. Item number 5 is resolution Koretz, Cedillo, O'Farrell-Rue, and CLA report relative to the city's position on SB 820 and AB 403, which would improve legal protections of legislative employees who report harassment or other ethical violations. Item number 6 is resolution Cedillo Englander and CLA report relative to the city's position on extending the Proposition 84 grant performance period for the Ord and Yale Park. Item number 7 is resolution Price O'Farrell and CLA report relative to the city's position on extending the Proposition 84 grant performance period for the Nevin Avenue Elementary School Park. Item number 8 is CLA report and resolution relative to the city's position as submitted by Public Works Bureau of Engineering on various public work matters. Item number 9 is resolution Koretz, Martinez, Rodriguez, Wesson, Harris-Dawson, and CLA report relative to the city's position on genetic counseling and testing for breast cancer gene mutations. Item number 10 is a CLA report relative to the review and status of the City of Los Angeles' Arizona policy concerning contracting and travel.
Okay, thank you. So I've got, I don't know, about 20 cards, give or take. This is a special meeting, so there won't be any general public comment. Your comments have to be directed towards one of the items that are on the agenda. So why don't we start off with Anna Gagan and then Safira Guerra and Amy, come forward. Let's read 11 then.
Oh, you're going to the item. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to the item that I think you're here for.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is resolution Rue, Wesson, and CLA report that was just received relative to the city's position on Senate Bill 827, which would allow the construction of housing developments near major transit stops without compliance with local land use regulations. And for the record, the agenda should have reflected that we have received additional community impact statements. We have received, besides the Northridge East Neighborhood Council, we have also received community impact statements from Rampart Village Neighborhood Council, Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council, Greater Echo Park Elysian Neighborhood Council, and the Empowerment Congress North Area Neighborhood Council.
Okay, good. Identify yourself and don't start the time until they give their name.
Okay. Hi, I'm Annie Gagan. I live in Hollywood, Council District 4, and Hollywood Hill. Oh,
go ahead. Oh, you go ahead.
Okay. My neighborhood council just voted to oppose it unanimously the other night, Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council, so they'll be getting that. I just wanted to thank our council member David Rue and also you, Council Member Weston, for seconding this resolution. SB 827 will hurt every end of the spectrum, from our working poor to the homeowners of Los Angeles. For the state to do a one-size-fits-all blanket bill, it's just an impossible thing. The city leaders and the communities know the neighborhoods here way better than the people in San Francisco. It's a really bad bill, and I hope that city council kills the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. So again, I'm looking for Amy and Araceli and Bill Watkins. Yes, ma'am, identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Amy Galladay. I belong to 4 homeowner associations. It occurred to me when buying a home or an apartment to look for a place that would fit my lifestyle, that was quiet and quaint, a sanctuary. At time of crisis and chaos, we look forward to the refuge of our home. Then along comes SB 827, a drastic, unplanned change which uproots everything we believed was stable under the guise of providing housing, which they have only provided luxury housing. The real estate industry will have to add a disclosure on every sale. Beware, this property is not secure, subject to developers that can do whatever they want next door to your home or an apartment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, please identify yourself. And I'll be looking for Damian Goodman and Aziola Sankara. Yes.
Yes. Hi, so I'm Sofia Guerra. I am with Coalition for Economic Survival. We are fully opposed to SB 827. SB 827 could undo much of our work over 45 years, like with winning rent control and preserving affordable housing. This bill is horrible, unamendable, and should be killed. Yes, we need more housing, especially affordable housing, but this is not the answer. In fact, this bill would likely worsen our crisis by increasing evictions and displacement, the loss of RSO units, and accelerating gentrification. Plus, this bill does not guarantee the housing built will be affordable. This is why CES, the LA County Democratic Party, the League of California Cities, Sierra Club, ACT LA, Community Coalition, and many more oppose it. We urge support of this motion to add LA to this growing list of opposition to SB 827. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Araceli, and I am a concerned citizen of South Los Angeles, and I wanted to express my concern. I'm also a member of SAGE, and I support the resolution and oppose SB 827 because it causes displacement, increase rent, will increase rent, and forcing long-term residents who are predominantly low-income people of color out of their home. Small local businesses losing to high-end and corporations, businesses that cater to new residents, and the possibility of privatizing public resources to benefit rich newcomers. Also, my concern is luxury housing, which is too expensive and may lead to vacant units and not enough affordable housing for low-income residents in the area. I would like to state that you should consider who's at stake here, which is low-income families, small local businesses, and long-term residents. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Mr. Watkins.
Good morning, Bill Watkins. There's an abrasive spotlight on our audience, by the way. Please consider that, removing that. To number 9, I want the council, all the council meetings, I'll wait for the attention of the chair.
No, Mr. Watkins,
I'm right here.
Just speak.
I understand.
Just go ahead.
Talk
all
about
right?
First Amendment. I know. I'm looking for your eyes, sir. Please reconsider Western medicine as a thing to put our money into, government money. Western medicine is not health. It's a version of health. It's for some people. I'm Christian Scientist. That means I'm a faith healer, believer in faith healing. My doctor is God. When you intervene on that, you're advocating for Western medicine. That's an opposing religion. It's against the First Amendment. Our budget is littered with Western medicine costs, and our sidewalks are terrible, our roads are terrible, and our safety program is terrible in the city. Reconsider giving a lot of our money to doctors and talking about cancer, which I don't believe in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please identify yourself.
Good morning, Council. Osceola Sankara with ACT LA. Our city has made some important strides to creating greater density near transit and pairing that with affordable housing requirements. And it's model policy that other cities across the state can be looking at, and I think it's something that Angelenos can be really proud of, and we voted for it at the polls. Unfortunately, SB 827, it's the wrong approach, including with recent amendments, and we support the resolution to oppose. Overall, I think we agree with Senator Wiener's goals, and if the goal is to get more folks out of their cars and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, that means that development near transit needs to be affordable to the people who use it regularly. And in LA, it's overwhelmingly African Americans, recent immigrants, and working class families. So equity, it has to be at the center of what we're doing, and with SB 827, it's not. So I think this is California. We could do better, and we need to do much better than what's being offered. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodman.
Good morning. Damian Goodman of the Crenshaw Subway Coalition and Director of Housing is a Human Right. I'm first here to prove the point that I don't just come down to City Hall to tell you when you're doing wrong. I'm here to tell you when you're doing right. So I thank you, Council President Wesson, for offering this motion to oppose SB 827, and I'm expecting Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson to fully support it. Well, I'm proud to see Councilmember Wesson standing up for our city against this Robert Slozis-like remaking of it by this San Francisco state senator who goes by the name of Scott Wiener. Let us admit there are some parts of this state that have a severe jobs housing imbalance, like Silicon Valley. However, this bill is not so tailored to drastically upzone Cupertino, but it does upzone all of Crenshaw. We are engaged in community plan updates. We have been engaged in community plan updates to embrace the transit expansion. I have fought for that transit expansion. I nor you could have been for it if we knew that it was going to lead to an urban renewal type remaking of our core. I should also say that we invited Senator Scott Wiener to come to the residents of South LA to speak to the black residents who live in apartments and homes, and he has refused to come.
Thank you. Okay, so let me get Brian Harris, Christine O'Brien, Christine Rangel, and Dale Kendall. Please come forward.
Yes, I'm Brian Harris. I'm also speaking on number 11, and I'm urging you all to support the resolution by Councilmember David Rue. I also am opposed to SB 827. It will destroy the ability for Los Angeles to make intelligent planning decisions. It is written by developers to maximize land values. SB 827 does not mandate affordable housing, as intelligent planning to increase public transportation would. SB 827 would be a giveaway to build only luxury housing and would cause increased gentrification. There is no incentive to build affordable or inclusionary housing in SB 827. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Yes, sir.
Sorry. My name is Dale Kendall. I'm a long-term resident of Los Angeles. I'm here in support of Councilman Rue's resolution. I feel that SB 827 is a broad bill that tries to make a one-size-fits-all. San Francisco, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego, for example, have different needs, and different decisions should be left at the local level, because at the local level they're better informed to make what the local community needs. Also, the bill may be abused by developers regarding rent stabilization and affordable housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And before the next speaker comes up, if I can get Debbie Goggin, Elena Eden, Frank Williams. Yes, identify
Good morning.
yourself.
Christine O'Brien, Hollywoodland Homeowners Association. I'm here speaking on their behalf. We support your position on this to oppose SB 827. The legislation is neither logical nor appropriate for California's diverse geography, weather, and vulnerability to natural disasters, including earthquakes, typhoons, mudslides, floods, fires, as well as historically sensitive hillside neighborhoods such as Hollywoodland and other neighborhoods that you're hearing from today. How could this measure be a one-size-fits-all? It could never accommodate Hollywoodland's fragile infrastructure without extreme safety concerns, an environmental disaster, or without destroying a sensitive historic neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, Council President and honorable council members. My name is Christine. I'm from the Building Industry Association, and we're here today to say that we, BIA LAV, as well as our California BIA, support 827, and we're very disappointed that the city is essentially saying that they don't want housing. You know, for every 7 jobs that we've created in the past 7 years, we've only produced 1 unit of housing. And we feel that this bill really allows us to produce that housing that we so desperately need. We're displacing millions of hardworking households, especially people who are disadvantaged or people of color. We have skyrocketing home prices, and we are not reaching our climate change goals because we're not building close enough to transit, and this is what that would do. So we ask you actually to oppose Councilman Rue's motion, and we ask that you consider working with Sacramento to address any of your own concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Debbie Gahn with CD10, and it's been a little over a year since I was last here, and I was one of the many residents who pleaded with you to help us keep the integrity of our neighborhoods by having proper zones that prohibit out-of-scale development. That was a long journey, but we got to get where we wanted, but we were heard, and I think the outcome is something we can all be proud of. And now here we are with SB 827, and I hope that you would agree that civic engagement is what makes a city better. And this bill has no regard for that. And any Senate bill that's written to overshadow the civic engagement responsible for bringing us our various zones doesn't deserve to be supported, but what does is a resolution before you. So please oppose SB 827, and let Senator Wiener know that in Los Angeles, civic engagement is valued. And also on item, yes, I do support item number 9. I think it's really important to get support for screening. So thank you.
Next speaker. And if I can get Georgina Serrano, Greg Bonet. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ilana Eden. I'm a writer covering urban planning in Southern California, and I'm here with the Coalition of Community Groups to support the resolution to oppose SB 827. We believe that this bill will increase speculation without offering meaningful anti-displacement and tenant protections, even with the amendments. And we believe that this sort of development, without those strong anti-displacement measures, will do more harm than good for the low-income communities of color who are most impacted by the housing crisis. I know that Senator Wiener said that he would support tenant protection measures down the line, but we need them before development happens and before the damage is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. And if I'm going to try to get to everybody that put in a card, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. So, Mr. Clerk, no more cards from this point on, because I want to get to all the people that were here. So please go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the time to speak. As an advocate of housing, I represent the 200. My name is Frank Williams. We are a coalition of Latino, minority, and millennial home advocates for home ownership. And I encourage all the legislative chairs and staff to read the book by Richard Rothstein called The Color of Law, because we see that an ongoing crisis of housing has not just happened with this one legislation, SB 827. We've seen a constant, systematic redlining and discrimination against minorities, and this has been going on for many, many years, especially since World War II. So what we need is a dialogue between City Council to help Senator Wiener add those amendments, because we need housing. We need housing next to our districts. If we're going to be hoping to be the star of California, which we are the economic, we need to have housing, especially by these transits. I work every day with Latino and Hispanic and Latino families, all minorities, African American, Asian, that cannot even afford to rent houses, and now they're looking to buy. How can they not have a taste of the American dream? So what we need is a positive, proactive approach to housing. And we need it by either supporting 827 or creating a dialogue to make sure that we increase housing, because what's been going on for the last 25 years has not been working. And this problem didn't happen. And unfortunately, the districts by Mr. Rue are not having minority housing in their districts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So if I can get Akili and Jill Stewart and Heidi Feldstein. Yes.
Good morning. A pleasure to see you here, council members. So my name is Georgina Serrano, serve in Inquilinos Unidos. Thousands of people, tenants in crisis, came and asked for help. And I listen this permission to rich people to build more luxury houses, but no housing for our people, for my people, break my heart, because people's plan clearly explain what the community needs, and now really need your support, like a people in power, to continue build more affordable housing for our city. We don't know more homeless in the streets. We want families growing and growing. So I'm declare support Ryan Wilson resolution and opposition on SB 827. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can get Mr. Previn on deck too. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Greg Bonet with Public Counsel. I encourage the committee to pass this resolution. As drafted, SB 827 poses a clear risk to low-income communities. The bill will mandate statewide upzoning, clearly creating value for developers and real estate speculators, while leaving affordable housing up to localities and only including tenant protections as a poorly executed afterthought. The bill makes no distinction between the wealthy, exclusionary neighborhoods that Senator Wiener claims he wants to address and low-income communities of color that are at risk of displacement by widespread market-rate development. A real solution to the housing crisis would lead with tenant protections. It would lead with affordable housing, preservation, and production. If Senator Wiener wants to address exclusionary neighborhoods, he should focus on those neighborhoods, not enact a policy that will harm the very residents who those neighborhoods have historically excluded. Again, we encourage the committee to pass this resolution in opposition to SB 827. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could get Eliana Wachtel, Joe Dolan, and Mary Louise Morgan. Yes, Mr. Keeley.
Good morning, members. My name's Keeley, and I'm with the Black Community Clergy and Labor Alliance that has taken a strong position in opposition to SB 827, in part because our communities will be affected the most. Secondly, because I would much rather debate and discuss zoning with the people here than to try to debate and discuss it in Sacramento. So we support your resolution to oppose SB 827 for all the reasons that have been stated to you before and your own conclusions, but we want to add that we want development without displacement, and if SB 827 is passed, we will only get development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, and thank you. My name's Heidi Feldstein, and I am in Council President Wesson's district, but I also own property in Council Member Ryu and Council Member Quartz's district, and I serve on the Pico Neighborhood Council. My first point is to ask the city clerk whether in fact you received our CIS, which was submitted by our president on behalf of the Pico Neighborhood Council day before yesterday. Our neighborhood council voted unanimously to support the resolution and oppose Senate Bill 827. So I can represent that to the body, and if you did not receive that opposition, I will make, or that support, I will make sure you get it.
I did talk to Brad.
Okay, so you have, all right. The second point I wish to make very briefly is that this bill doesn't create a single unit of housing, affordable or not. It takes away R1 and R2 zones and permits them to be replaced with nothing other than McMansions. JJJ only applied to 10 plus units. The TOC guidelines apply to 5+ units. This measure is not about density, it's about McMansion. And finally, we've just spent a fortune and a lot of time on Recode LA and LA planning. We cannot jettison all that out the window. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Weston. Jill Stewart, Executive Director of Coalition to Preserve LA. Thank you very much. We support strongly your resolution. I would like to ask for a couple of things. That's my job. There are competing maps as to how Los Angeles would be affected by the disastrous Senate Bill 827. This one is from Sasha Aiken. You've probably seen it. It's all over the internet. He created the first map, and everybody's going to it because Los Angeles has not given us a public map that zooms in where we can see the effects. This is a competing map by a professor at Cal State Northridge, completely different from this one, showing what would happen in the valley. So we beg you to clear up the confusion by asking formally that the planning department create a really detailed map and put it out to the public. Finally, please read the report by Berkeley Law. It's brand new. It's called Getting It Right. It explains why cities take so long to approve housing, and it specifically attacks 827 as a silencer of the vulnerable and the poor because it ends virtually all hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, to the clerk, Mr. Previn gets 2 minutes because he has multiple comments. Okay, Mr. Previn, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. It's Eric Previn from Studio City, and disclosure, I've decided to run against Sheila Kuehl for county supervisor, which is an uphill climb.
Let's
sir.
just stay on that.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to thank you for opposing 827. I think that's a no-brainer for almost everybody. You see a room full of hardworking advocates who ordinarily are fighting you, so there's a little bit of a irony, or not hypocrisy, sir, because you're doing your best, but I think people have noticed that the local regulations that we are clamoring to retain are badly infected. So we're hoping that we can make some impact there. And there's some examples on the agenda, like the Arizona item, where you have to just ask yourself, how is getting 4,400 tasers, armed LAPD guys with tasers all over the place, really helping us in a homeless crisis? And of course the answer is it's not. And now up in the Bay Area, where they're also experiencing with the density item, people leaving, as I think we've read in the paper, that people are concerned, is this model of a big transit city where people get around? I don't know if it's a myth or not, because what about all the other going to
Get
Costco?
on another item now, Mr. President.
No, I'm talking about 827. You gotta. I know we want to get cars
but
off
still,
the road.
you've spoken on that for over a minute, so now you get to another item. These people got 1 minute to speak on that specific
Okay, I don't want
item.
extra time, sir, but I thought Arizona
No,
was
come on,
only-
Ms. Eric, let's don't go back and forth. You got
Well,
2
we go
minutes,
back and
1
forth all the
minute,
time.
1 minute to speak on the one item, and you know this, and another minute to speak on the other items. Now go ahead or sit down.
You're filling up my time with your stuff, which I appreciate. But the Metro is one of the solutions, and they've got multiple parcels, and over at the county, they're
Thank
trying
you,
to put
Mr.
them-
Previn.
Well, how-
Okay, let's have the next speaker. Next speaker. Mr. Previn, please, next speaker. 1 minute.
Lana Wachtel with the Coalition to Preserve LA. We want to thank the committee for adopting this or putting forward this resolution to oppose 827. We feel that this is a bill that will be a disaster for LA neighborhoods. We cannot afford more gentrification, displacement, and environmental degradation, which is what this bill will do. We are also asking that the committee and the council ask the planning department to please do an analysis of the bill as San Francisco has done, so that the residents and citizens of Los Angeles will understand what this bill will do and the impact it will have on Los Angeles neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan, good to see you.
Nice seeing you. Good morning. I'm here to express my support for the Rue amendment. 827 will not solve the housing crisis. It will only displace residents living in affordable housing and residents living in their own homes, and replace them with luxury housing. Planning is and should remain a local function. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning.
Joe Donlan with SAGE, standing in with ACT LA and speaking on behalf of the United Neighbors in Defense Against Displacement Coalition to support this resolution to oppose SB 827 for many reasons shared today. SB 827 is a direct attack on South Central LA and a direct attack on the great community wins that have been taking place, including those just this past November when the People's Plan was built into the community plans of South LA and Southeast LA. SB 827 would wipe those wins for equitable development away. The second point is that SB 827 would worsen vulture capitalism and wealth extraction from Black and Latino homeowners primarily, and other community members because of its giveaway to the likes of Invitation Homes, Blackstone, and private equity firms who have gobbled up properties after the foreclosure crisis and the housing crisis. And so for many reasons, we oppose SB 827.
Thank you. Okay, so I want us as a committee to be able to, sit down, Mr. Herman, as a committee to be able to have a conversation about this. I'm going to take 2 more public comments. Odds are I will not be able to get to everyone that was here today, but your names will be placed into the record. So to wrap this up, if I could get Linda Dishman and Mickey Jackson, please come forward.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Linda Dishman, and I'm the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Conservancy. We are strongly in support of this resolution to oppose SB 827. There have been many important comments made today on why this bill is bad. I want to make a special note, because of our mission at the Conservancy, that this law would eviscerate all of the protections and design guidelines that are afforded in the historic preservation overlay zones throughout Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Mickey Jackson, the Coalition to Preserve LA, Housing as a Human Right. I will talk about something a little different to do with this, because my colleagues and all these folks I don't even know have done such a good job. You know, we keep talking about putting all this housing near transit, but what we do is we get rid of the affordable housing near transit and we put luxury housing near transit. And the more housing we build near transit, the worse our transit numbers get. More high-rises go this way, and the people going on transit go that way. Now, it's not rocket science. It's in the LA Times. It's everywhere. And everyone knows what it is. A lot of officials are pretending they don't. I'm very glad this resolution is here, and I support it. People in luxury housing with 3 BMWs are not going to take the metro. So thank you for this resolution, and I support it.
Thank you. If I could get the department people to come up real quick. No, the public comment is now closed. Department people, come on. We took over 25 cards. Okay, who's going to give me the quick skinny on what the department found? Ken, is that you? Or who? Don't be shy.
Good morning. Arthi Varma with the Department of City Planning. As you know, the department doesn't generally take a position on legislation. However, we have been engaging in some analysis based on the far-reaching impacts that this bill will have on the city of Los Angeles, given how large and diverse the city is. Just by way of background, of course, providing increased housing supply and options is a critical priority for the city of Los Angeles, and we've made great strides toward that end over the last few years with the creation of our transit-oriented communities guidelines and the pending permanent supportive housing and interim motel conversion ordinances, as well as some of the strides we've made with our community plans in South LA towards increasing affordable housing. So that's sort of the framework that we're operating in here in Los Angeles. And some of the initial observations that we've made on the bill, given that, is that any state legislation needs to respect the basic form of the city of Los Angeles. We must be allowed to retain our design review authority to ensure that any change that occurs honors the existing urban development patterns. I'll let Ken describe some of our thoughts about the historic preservation concerns that we have. And while the amendments to SB 827 do include some protections for rent-stabilized units, the bill should continue to address impacts related to indirect displacement that will occur. Currently, as the bill is drafted, based on our preliminary analysis, there's disproportionate impacts on underserved communities and communities of color in terms of the areas that SB 827 impacts. So we'd like to look deeper into that as well. And I'll hand it off to Ken to describe some of the historic concerns.
Thank you. Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning and Office of Historic Resources. I would just add, with respect to our impacts on historic resources, first of all, the department has begun mapping those areas that would be subject to SB 827, and 96% of the acreage in the city's historic preservation overlay zones. We have 35 HPOZs in the city encompassing about 21,000 properties. 96% of that acreage is in areas that would be subject to the provisions of SB 827. And while the bill has been recently amended to have additional controls on demolition, allow cities to review demolition under city laws, the bill still does not allow for any review based on design guidelines. Developers could take steps, anything up to how the city defines demolition, and completely engulf or alter significant historic features in the HPOZs in the city. It's important to point out the HPOZs represent only about 2% of our land area overall, but these are our most significant historic neighborhoods in the city. So while other incentives at the state level, including state density bonus law, have had carve-outs or exemptions for historic...
Mr. Herman, can we have Mr. Herman removed? And Mr. Herman, don't try to come back for counsel either. You're disturbing the meeting, okay? You're disrupting the meeting. Sergeant, show him the outside. Mr. Herman, we're discussing very important things. We're not going to deal with your foolishness this morning. Yeah, just take him out. Okay, so Ken, just don't pay any attention to him, even though he is continuing, Madam Attorney, to disrupt this meeting, but continue with your answer.
Thank you. Just to wrap up on historic resources, while other incentives at the state level, including state density bonus law, have had exemptions or carve-outs for impacts to historic resources, the bill as currently drafted does not, and this also would have a significant impact on our ability to review design with our 1,100 plus city landmarks, our historic cultural monuments in the city.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, John Wickham with the CLA's office. The major issue here is that the state is taking away local control over land use. And the point is that any time in the future where the council would need to address anything that's happening locally in the city, we would have to go to Sacramento in order to address these problems. And so the CLA has a report on file recommending opposition to the bill's support for the resolution that was introduced.
Thank you. And, you know, Mr. Harris-Dawson, just let me say this, and then hopefully we can vote on this. If I can get quiet over to my right. You know, I've had the opportunity to speak to the senator, and I truly believe that he believes that he's addressing a need, okay? We all recognize that there is a serious need. But there was an individual who came here earlier who happened to be from my district who talked about the importance of civil engagement, which is the key to just about anything that we do. So even though I commend the senator for wanting to do what he believes is right in his mind, I just think that we as a city need to step up, and we need to be engaged, and we need to deal with our housing crisis, and we have to stop putting it off, but it is our responsibility. And so with that said, I would recommend that we adopt the CLA report and resolution. So without objection, Mr. Clerk, that'll be the order. So that is approved. Now, Mr. Clerk, let's go through items. Thank you. Let's go through items 1 and item 10. through 10 that you read off earlier. And unless there's a comment or statement by Mr. Harris Dawson, I would say that the items 1 through 10, without objection, we will deem these items approved. Read 4 and 10. I'm instructed, Mr. Clerk. In fact, on item 4, we'll adopt the CLA report and resolution as further amend the resolution to support SB 5 De Leon. And 10, we will adopt option 1 of the CLA report. So without objection, those items are deemed approved. Is there any additional business before this body?
No, sir, that clears the desk.
Then this committee is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.